Part 20. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 191. Chapter 191 Chapter 191 The Most Precious Thing. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at paper 4A and then at Fu Jianxiao before picking up the pen and filling in the information. Zhang Xiaoxiao filled out the information, and then the staff asked her to stand on the red set that had been set up by the servants and take photos of her. Zhang Xiaoxiao felt a little strange the whole time, but she could tell what was strange. The staff had collected everything and were about to leave when the boss spoke. "Xiaoxiao, you haven't taken any photos with Uncle Wu this year. They happen to have cameras and are considered professionals, so let's ask them to take one for us." Okay, Zhang Xiao agreed without much thought. Zhang Xiaoxiao originally thought that the boss would go to gardens and places with better scenery to take pictures, but who knew that the boss would actually sit down on the red background? If she sat down, she would feel like she was taking wedding photos. "Uncle Wu, let's go to the garden to take pictures, where the scenery is better." Zhang Xiaoxi refused to take pictures against the red background and did not dare to refuse blatantly, so he could only say this. Fu Jianxiao looked at Zhang Xiaoxi with his dark eyes calmly, and said calmly, "Xiaoxiao, after finishing the filming, Uncle Wu still has official business to deal with." Fu Jianxiao was so calm, which made Zhang Xiaoxiao feel very weird. It was because she was overthinking and being pretentious, so she twitched the corner of her mouth and sat down. At the same time that Zhang Xiaoxiao sat over, the staff took out the camera and pointed it at them. "Miss Xiao, please come closer to Mr. Fu." Zhang Xiao moved to the side silently. "This angle is just right, smile." Child Zhang and Fu Jianxiao smiled at the same time, and a perfect photo was formed. The staff looked at the photo with satisfaction and said to Fu Jianxiao, "I will have Mr. Fu's photo sent to you in a few days." Fu Jianxiao responded lightly, "Yeah. Then let's go first, Mr. Fu." Zhang Xiaoxiao asked the boss after the staff left, "Uncle Fifth, what did Grandpa give me?" Fu Jianxiao lowered his eyes and looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao, rubbed the top of her hair with his palms, and said in a deep voice, "I gave you his most precious thing." "What is it? Can I go and see it?" Zhang Xiao's eyes lit up when he heard that it was the most precious thing. He looked at the boss with curiosity, hoping that he could tell him. "You will see it sooner or later. Do you still want to go to school?" "I won't go." Zhang Xiao didn't want to go to school. There were still a lot of papers given by the math teacher. She couldn't bear the teacher's love. Fu Jianxiao pinched her cheek and said in a doting voice, "If you don't want to go, don't go. Uncle Wu is going out. If you feel uncomfortable, just lie down and wait for me to come back." Oh, Zhang Xiao nodded obediently. Fu Jianxiao returned to his room as soon as he left. Zhang Xiaoxiao brushed off the love from the teacher, and finished 4 whole chapters of the paper before lying on the bed playing with his mobile phone and checking Weibo. Hashtag Fukengziu and Wenyuru went in and out of the bridal shop. Hashtag exploded. Zhang Xiaoxiao clicked in when he saw this message. The boss and Wenyuru walked into the bridal shop side by side. Zhang Xiaoxi suddenly felt angry and uncomfortable in his heart. She should be happy to see the boss and Wenyuru coming and going in pairs. Why does she feel that the photo is so dazzling and uncomfortable? With blood rushing to his forehead, he dialed the boss's number directly. The phone rang for a long time but no one answered. With a gloomy face, Zhang Xiaoxiao threw the phone aside and sneered, "Bitch man," she said. She loved herself, and then went to follow her new love. She should get married as soon as possible so that she can go abroad to see the handsome guy. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 192. Chapter 192 Chapter 192 Going home to comfort the children. Your girl seems angry. Wenyuru was wearing a wedding dress and looked at Fu Jianxiao with a smile. Fu Jianxiao sat back on the sofa, raised his eyes slightly, and looked at Wenyu calmly. The wedding dress is good. Do you want me to send it to you as a man? Do I still need you to post it? Wenyu looked outside at the paparazzi hiding in front of the car, and showed a generous smile. Fujinexiu held a cigarette in his mouth, looked in the direction she was looking, and squinted. Are you sure he can see it? I'll let him see it. Senior, you need to stand up and cooperate with me now so that a few photos can be taken. Wenyu lifted the hair beside his ear. Fujinexiu took a brief puff of the cigarette, then blew out all the smoke from between his thin lips, and finally put the cigarette out in the ashtray, and walked next to Wenyu. Wenyu turned his head, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Fujinexiu lowered his head, and the two of them were just around the corner. Eye to eye, from the paparazzi's perspective, such a photo is simply perfect, with the lovers looking at each other affectionately. Senior, thank you. Yeah, Fujinexiu stared at Wenyu indifferently. He really didn't understand women. Someone who said he gave up in front of him yesterday regretted asking him to come and cooperate with her today. Women are really hard to figure out. Wenyu stood with Fujinexiu for a while, letting the paparazzi take enough photos, and then went to change out of the wedding dress. Senior, do you want to go out for a cup of coffee with me? Go home and coax the kids. Fujinexiu left the message and left. Wenyu looked at his leaving figure and smiled secretly. He acted so calmly with her just now and thought he was not in a hurry. He was indeed a troubled man. Fujinexiu returned home as quickly as possible. When he entered the hall, he asked the housekeeper, "Where is my hour?" "Little miss, I have been in the room all day today, and I also had lunch in the room." However, the little miss did not drink the brown sugar water you ordered, the housekeeper answered truthfully. Fujinexiu frowned slightly and went directly upstairs. Zhang Xiao was wearing headphones, playing his favorite music, and frantically answering questions to distract himself. However, the more he did this, the more photos of Fujinexiu and Wenyu lingered in his mind. Unknowingly, I wrote on the paper that Fujinexiu is a dog man. Fujinexiu-jun looked at the words on the paper with a dark face, and took the pen away from someone's hand. He said in a cold voice, "Uncle Wu, are you a dog man?" Zhang Xiao was frightened, his pupils were dilated, he looked at Fujinexiu in horror, and he stammered, Fifth uncle." Fujinexiu lifted her from the stool into his arms, rested his chin on the top of her hair, and played with her hair with his fingers. "Uncle Wu is a dog man, so who are you?" Zhang Shishi's face was pale as he was being held by the boss, trying to cover up the matter. "Uncle Wu, when did you come back? Why are you walking so silently, like a ghost?" Zhang Shishi added silently in his heart. "If you don't come back, you still don't know how Uncle Wu feels in your heart." Fujinexiu played with her hair carelessly. Haha, Zhang Xiao laughed dryly and flattered him, "Uncle Wu, no one can replace you in my heart. Irreplaceable dog man." Zhang Xiao. Is this so petty? Didn't you see that she was already admitting her mistake? Still so aggressive and stingy. Uncle Wu, I was wrong. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 193. Chapter 193. Chapter 193. Are you angry that I didn't receive your call? What's wrong? Fujinexiu's thin lips curled up slightly. Zhang had curled her lips since she was a child. The dog man was indeed very small-minded, but she couldn't afford to offend him, and it wasn't the first time that she got cold feet. She readily admitted her mistakes and said, "I was wrong because I shouldn't have written bad things about you. Uncle Wu's still seen by you." Fujinexiu listened to the little girl admitting her mistake without caring at all, and the smile on her lips widened. "Well, It's good that you know you were wrong. Do you have anything to do with Uncle Wu on the phone today? It's okay, Zhang Xiaoxiao replied to Fu Chenxiao coldly with a sullen face. Fu Chenxiao raised his eyebrows and pinched Zhang Xiaoxiao's face. There was tenderness in his eyes. Are you angry that Uncle Wu didn't receive your call? No, Zhang Xiao answered quickly, but Zhang Du couldn't hide the displeasure in his tone. Really not, Fu Chenxiao pulled his lips. Zhang Xiaoxi broke away from Fu Chenxiao's arms with an unnatural expression, and his tone of voice unconsciously increased. No, it means no, fifth uncle, you can be with whoever you want to be with. Does it have anything to do with me? Fu Chenxiao stared at her with cold eyes, layers of undercurrents rising in his cold eyes, and said in a deep voice, why does it have nothing to do with you? What does it have to do with me? She wants to live her whole life with you, not with me, Zhang Xiaoxiao said with bulging cheeks. So, even if Uncle Wu marries her, you don't have any objection? Fu Chenxiao asked her with a frown. Zhang Xiaoxiao's heart was filled with panic. The boss really wanted to marry Wen Yueru. How could she be so sad? She wanted to cry. A layer of mist slowly began to form in her eyes. She pursed her lips and tilted her head to one side. Fu Chenxiao stared at her misty eyes, raised his eyebrows, stood up without saying anything, and left Zhang Xiaoxi's room. As soon as Fu Chenxiao left, Zhang Xiaoxiao burst into tears. Men are indeed bad people who like the new and hate the old. They have already fallen in love with each other in just 2 or 3 days. Bai Yueguang fell in love with the wrong person, and the boss is a scumbag. Zhang Xiao was crying so sadly that he couldn't stop his tears. His eyes were always fixed on the door, expecting the big boss to appear at the door. Fu Chenxiao looked at the sad person crying in the surveillance camera with a cold face, his thin lips pressed into a straight line, his face tensed up, his hands clenched into fists, restraining himself from wanting to comfort someone. If he went back now, then it's useless to ask Wen Yueru to help in the drama. He just wants to force the little girl to admit that she likes him. So no matter how much Zhang Xiaoxiao cries now, he will not comfort her. Zhang didn't know how long he cried when he was a child. Anyway, he lay on the bed and fell asleep while crying. Dream. Zhang Xiao dreamed that he was back in the real world. He worked hard to earn money and bought a house in Shanghai. He brought his parents to his side and met a like-minded person. He was gentle and considerate and was a completely different type of person than the big boss. She liked this partner very much, and the two went to meet their parents together, discussed the wedding date, and prepared to take the final step between a man and a woman. Suddenly the face of her partner turned into that of Fu Chenxiao. The man was gloomy, with black eyes like a whirlpool in the deep sea, as if he wanted to her in. He gritted his teeth and pinched her chin. Young child, if you dare to disobey me, then I will just let you never see your parents in this life. Zhang Xiao stared at him without fear and retorted, you already like someone else, what are you doing here? Go away. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 194. Chapter 194 Chapter 194 Melancholy. Go away, wherever you want me to go, Zhang Xiaoxiao, you are already my woman, you still want to be with another man, do you think I am dead? The man's voice was gritted, and there was danger in the depths of his black eyes. Flames. Zhang Xiaoxiao's dark eyes widened and he stared at Fu Chenxiao, his little face flushed, what's the matter? If you, a Zhou official, are allowed to set fires, you are not allowed to light lamps as a commoner. Besides, you are sleeping on your white clothes, moonlight is not me, go away, don't disturb my current life, you scumbag. You are my child, no matter how far you run away, you will always be mine, Fu Chenxiao declared his sovereignty domineeringly. No, I'm not yours, I'm me. Bai Yueguang is Bai Yueguang. You can destroy Bai Yueguang, but you are not qualified to destroy me. This is a real society, not a novel centered on you. Zhang Ziaxi spoke excitedly. Talk to Fu Xiu. You are mine. There is only sunshine Zhang Xiao in this world, and I raised that Zhang Xiao with my own hands, so if you dare to be with another man, I will not agree to it. I can have your first time, I can have you for the second time. Fu Xiu lowered his head and bit her lips. No, get out of here, Zhang Ziaxi roared heartbreakingly. Scumbag, don't, get away, I hate you. Fu Xiu held Zhang in his arms and listened to the words that came out of her mouth. His dark eyes were full of sadness. This little girl still hated herself in her dream. Fu family. Fu Yan was sitting beside the old man's bed, serving him. The old man slept for a whole day and night before he woke up. He is still not very energetic, but the first thing he said was, "Have you taken over the hour?" Since Fu Yan talked with Fu Xiu, her mood has not eased. Her heart is full of worry. Dad, Xiao doesn't want to, and Xiao didn't listen to what the elder brother said. Ahem, I knew that would not bring his childhood back. He was too selfish and never thought about his childhood. My poor granddaughter will die in the future because that boy ruined her reputation and went there. Choose a good husband there. The old man's blood pressure increased a lot. Fu Yan quickly comforted the old man. Dad, no, a person who was so outstanding in our childhood would not find a bad husband. Don't get excited. How can I not be excited? The most important thing for a girl is her reputation. Now that such a scandal is spreading, it will only do harm to the child but not good. The boy doesn't know it yet. It really me off, the old man shouted at the thought of Fu Xiu's forehead. Pain. Fu Yan saw that the old man was in such a mood right now. If she knew that Fu Xiu liked Zhang Ziaxi, she probably wouldn't know how angry she would be. And Xiao would never give up on Zhang Ziaxi. This was simply a problem. He spoke tentatively, Dad, if what is said on the internet is true. Yan Yan, are you confused too? They are 10 years apart. How is it possible? Xiao Wu doesn't like that girl from the Wen family. The old man, I didn't think in that direction at all. Fu Yan sighed worriedly in her heart. In the old man's heart, Fu Xiu and Zhang Xiao had an uncle-nephew relationship, and this relationship could only go so far. Dad, if you don't want Zhang Ziaxi to have a bad reputation, I have an idea. Fu Yan had no choice but to find a way to make Fu Xiu give up Zhang Xiao. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 195. Chapter 195. Chapter 195. Sister, I am more afraid of Xiao Wu than you. What can we do? The old man looked at Fu Yan with bright eyes. Fu Yan pursed her lips and struggled a little in her heart. She decided to give it a try. If the two of them really couldn't be separated, then she would also find a way to make the old man learn to accept it. If she knew it in advance, it would be easier to accept it. It wasn't that big of a problem, so he spoke slowly, Dad, if Xiao Wu doesn't send her back, you can go live with Xiao Wu, and that way you can avoid a lot of trouble. Mr. Fu thought silently for a while and finally nodded, okay, let's go live at Xiao Wu's house. I don't believe it. An old man like me lives there and there are still people gossiping. As he spoke, the old man wanted to stand up from the bed, hoping that he would appear at Fu Xiu's villa the next second. Fu Yan stopped him and said, Dad, I have to wait until you are well before you go. If you go now, it will make us worried. What's there to worry about? A little high blood pressure won't kill anyone. If our family gets hurt, it's inevitable. The old man really loves Zhang Xiao. He gives priority to Zhang Xiao in everything and always treats Zhang Xiao. Put it first in your heart. Fu Yan had no choice but to call Guanyang. After asking if the good old man was okay, she called several other brothers. Several of them came back and helped the old man pack his things and go to Fu Chenxiu's place. Hey, if Xiao Wu drives you back, don't be angry. Fu Shenran is not usually a talkative person, but today he suddenly told the old man something like this, and everyone looked at him with strange eyes. Fu Highway, 4th, no one will think you are mute if you don't speak. Fu Shenyuan looked like he didn't understand me, which was a sign of disgrace to Fu Highway, and he said to the old man, Dad, I advise you to stop messing around and don't get off the stage when the time comes. I still don't believe he dares to drive me away, the old man yelled at his son with no confidence in his heart. Fu Chenxiu had the weirdest temper among his sons. If he didn't agree, it would be very difficult for him to want to live there. Difficulty. Fu Shenzhen chose to remain silent when he saw that his father was so stubborn. Several people helped the old man pack up. Fu Qiuchao went to drive. Fu Highway helped the old man out. Fu Yan pulled Fu Shenchen and asked with a serious expression, Xiao Si, do you know what happened to Xiao Wu Zhenjin when he was a child? What's wrong with them? Fu Shenchen didn't want his brother to trouble him, so he pretended to be stupid and answered Fu Yan blankly. Stop pretending to me, Xiao Wu has already admitted it to me personally. Didn't you say you already knew that Xiao Wu likes Xiao Wu? Fu Yan stared at Fu Shenzhen and interrogated him. Fu Shenzhen. Xiao said it had nothing to do with him. Sister, I've known this for a long time, but aren't you afraid of being silenced by Xiao Wu, so you understand? Fu Shenchen looked at Fu Yan with a rare flattery. Fu Yan's head hurt with anger, and she continued to question him, when did you know? When I was a child, when I was 16 years old, Fu Shenhua answered quickly this time. Fu Yan really wanted to slap Fu Shenxi to death. If he had told her earlier, maybe he would have severed the relationship right then and everything would have returned to normal. Angrily yelled at Fu Shenzhen, why didn't you tell me earlier? Aren't you afraid of being silenced by me? Fu Shenhua answered honestly, Sister, I'm more afraid of Xiao Wu than you. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 196. Chapter 196. It was already evening when the family sent the old man to Nangziyuan. When Zhang Xiaoxiao saw the old man, he rushed to his side and called him Grandpa sweetly. Seeing that Zhang Xiao was in a much better mood, the old man touched the top of her hair lovingly and said, Xiao Xiao, it's all my fault that Grandpa didn't protect you well and you got hurt. Zhang Xiao. What harm did she suffer? Grandpa, I have always been protected by you, how could I be harmed? Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the old man with crooked eyebrows. The old man felt a pain in his heart. How could he not feel distressed when this girl was so wronged and came to comfort him? When I was a child, I blamed Grandpa. If Grandpa hadn't handed you over to your fifth uncle to raise you, he wouldn't have gotten mad. Xiao Xiao, come here. Fu Chenxiu frowned and called Zhang Xiaoxiao to his side. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the boss in confusion. Why is the boss so crazy? Can't he even talk to the old man? Zhang Xiao passed over obediently and looked at Fu Chenxiu with puzzled eyes. Fu Chenxiu didn't look at her, he focused on the old man and the others, and said in a cold tone, Dad, what are you doing here? The old man snorted coldly and said, I've thought about it. Since you don't agree to leave me to raise you, then I will come and live here and take care of your life, so as not to show up on the day. I don't agree, please go back. Fu Chenxiu interrupted the old man's words with a cold face. When the old man was rejected by his son, he couldn't stand it on the spot. He pointed at Fu Chenxiu with a straight face and cursed, you don't agree. I've decided to live here. Why are you looking for someone to kick me out? If you insist on not leaving, then it will be as you wish. Fu Chenxiu answered the old man indifferently. The old man covered his chest with one hand, his blood pressure began to rise again, and he threw the crutch in his hand towards Fujinexiu. You treacherous son, I am going to live with you today, you can drive me away and give it a try. Fu Shenzhen looked at the two of them in fear. He knew that such a situation would happen. Fujinexiu easily dodged the old man's crutches, looked at the old man with a deep frown, and a terrifying expression on his face. Butler, come here and take the old man out. Xiao Wu, Fu Qiuachao and Fu Yan spoke at the same time. Both of them frowned and stared at Fujinexiu with solemn expressions. Xiao, you've thought about it for a while, it's okay to come and stay for a while, you're going too far, Fu Yan persuaded Fujinexiu. Fujinexiu looked at Fu Yan with cold eyes. It's okay to stay for a short time, but it's impossible to stay permanently. I just want to stay forever. The old man was so angry that his breathing became short, and he glared at Fujinexiu with anger burning in his eyes. Then please go back, Fujinexiu replied without giving the old man any face. You. Dad, Grandpa. Guanyang frowned and looked at Fujinexiu, with a warning in his tone. The old man has been angry twice. It is very likely that he will have a stroke, and the result will be paralysis in bed. Uncle Guan, is Grandpa okay now? Although Zhang Xiaoxiao studied medicine, he was still in the urology department. His medical skills were definitely not as good as Guanyang's, but after the old man passed out, she was the one who performed the emergency treatment. It's okay, just lower the blood pressure. I heard you did the first aid when I was young. Guanyang's eyes with gold-rimmed glasses considered her calmly. Zhang Xiao replied with fear, I learned first aid knowledge in school, can I do it well? Very good, Guanyang replied with a slight smile. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 197. Chapter 197. Chapter 197. You are hiding something from your elder brother. Haha. Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled dryly. Uncle Guan, please don't praise me, I'm pretty good at it. What do you want to study in college? Do you want to study medicine with Uncle Guan? Guanyang asked casually. Forensic doctor, I hope you can give me some advice when the time comes. Zhang Xiao said what he was thinking. Guanyang glanced at Fujinexiu, curled up the corner of his mouth, and replied, okay. Guanyang said a few words to Zhang Xiaoxi, and then went to help the old man prepare the medicine. Only the Fu family and Zhang Xiaoxi were left in the room, and the atmosphere was a bit delicate. Xiaoxi, you go out first. Fujinexiu raised his thin lips slightly and sent Zhang Xiao out. Zhang Xiao wanted to stay by the old man's side, but he could feel that the atmosphere in the room was satisfactory, so he went out obediently. Before going out, he pulled the boss's clothes and lowered his voice, Uncle Wu, be gentle. Yes, Fujinexiu responded lightly. As soon as Zhang Xiaoxiao went out, Fu Qiuachao spoke, Xiao Wu, you shouldn't talk to Dad like that today. I don't know what happened on Weibo when I was young, so don't talk about it in front of her. We understand, but Xiao Wu's dad living here can also block everything in Yuyu. You shouldn't make Dad so angry, Fu Yan said with a somewhat reproachful tone. Fujinexiu stared at Fu Yan with his black eyes. Fu Yan shivered when she realized it, feeling guilty. Fu Qiuachao frowned slightly when he saw Fujinexiu's eyes. Xiao Wu, since you agree that Dad will live here, let's go back first. Okay. Fujinexiu didn't say a word more. Whatever Fu Yan wanted to say was pulled out by Fu Qiuachao. In the car, Fu Qiuachao stared at Fu Yan with a serious expression and sharp eyes. Yan, you have something to hide from brother. Fu Yan replied with a stiff expression, brother, what can I hide from you? Why do you ask so? Fu Yan's stiff acting skills were simply not enough to impress Fu Qiuachao, and he said, Yan, even if you don't tell me, I can guess a little bit. I'm just asking you to make sure. Now I can be sure. Brother, No one can change the things that Xiao Wu believes in the most. I really can't think of any good way, Fu Yan said helplessly. Little 5 pairs of hours. Yeah, Fu Yan nodded. She knew that she couldn't hide Fu Qiuachao, and he would be found out sooner or later. Fu Qiuachao's heart sank and he pursed his lips. The car fell into silence for a while. A few minutes later, his steady voice sounded again, I will find a way to send the hour away. Are Wenyuoru and Xiao real or fake? False, and from Xiao Wu's tone, Wenyuoru seems to have someone he likes, so there is no possibility of a relationship between them. Fu Yan really hopes that Fu Chenxiu and Wenyuoru are real. That would be good for everyone. I know. Although Fu Qiuachao said this, the wrinkles between his eyebrows showed that he had not thought of any good ending plan. After they left, Zhang Xiaoxiao went to guard the old man. He glanced at the big man who didn't look very good and asked, Uncle Fifth, did you have a fight with Aunt Three and the others? No, I'll watch over the old man while you go back to bed, Fu Chenxiu ordered Zhang Xiaoxiao. I won't go back. There is a sofa here. I will sleep on the sofa. I don't trust Grandpa. Zhang Xiaoxiao cared very much about having such an elder who cared for her in this book. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 198. Chapter 198. Chapter 199. My heart softened immediately. Xiao Xiao, be obedient, Fu Chenxiu said to Zhang Xiaoxiao calmly. Zhang Xiaoxiao can be said to be more stubborn than Fu Chenxiu in some things. Fifth uncle, whatever you say, I just want to stay here to accompany Grandpa tonight. Our. Fu Chenxiu's tone was long, and his deep eyes stared at Zhang Xiaoxi coldly. Zhang Xiaoxiao knew not to be too strong in front of the boss, so he lowered his voice and said softly, Uncle Wu, I beg you, please let me stay with Grandpa here, otherwise I won't worry and won't be able to sleep. Of. Zhang Xiao's voice was soft, and his dark eyes stared pitifully, just like a cute pet trying to please its owner. Fu Chenxiu's heart softened, and his voice was a little helpless, you're not feeling well, it's okay to stay like this. No. Zhang Xiaoxi shook his head repeatedly, Uncle Wu, I have already passed the most difficult first day, and everything will be fine later on. I'll accompany you. Fu Chenxiu didn't listen to her explanation, so he picked up Zhang Xiaoxiao, wrapped him in his arms, and the two of them lay on the sofa. Zhang Xiao's whole body was tense. The old man was still lying there. The boss dared to lie on the sofa with her so brightly. If the old man woke up and saw her, how would she explain it? Fifth uncle. Zhang Xiaoxiao called the boss with a pale face. If something happened to the old man because of their affairs, she would not forgive herself and could only ask the boss to let her go. Fu Chenxiu held Zhang Shishi in his arms, buried his head in the crook of Zhang Xiaoxi's neck, closed his eyes, and said in a hoarse voice full of exhaustion, Xiao Xiao, if you have anything to do, wait until Uncle Wu wakes up. Zhang Xiaoxiao listened to the boss's tired voice, and for some reason his heart softened and he stopped talking. She looked in the direction of the old man with fear. As long as there was any movement from the old man, she would immediately come out of the boss's arms. Early morning the next day. The old man's face was rosy and he was enjoying Zhang Shi's feeding in high spirits. When I was young, Grandpa still wanted to eat that side dish. Okay Grandpa. Zhang Xiao picked up a piece of fungus and fed it to the old man's mouth. The old man was eating in a happy mood, and occasionally looked at Fu Chenxiu provocatively, you brat, asked you not to let me live in, but now you are feeding me as a child, you are envious. Fu Chenxiu has been looking at the old man in silence. Grandpa, I will be here with you today. Zhang Xiao looked at the old man with a smile. Okay, it's better to be in my childhood. The old man was in a happy mood. At this moment, Fu Chenxiu poured cold water on the old man. Xiao Xiao, the midterm exam is about to take place. Are you sure you want her to stay with you at home instead of going to school? The old man's expression changed, and he immediately took Zhang Xiao's hand. Xiao Xiao, Grandpa, you don't have to take care of so many servants at home, you can take care of me as an old man. You should focus on your studies and go to school as soon as possible. Zhang Shi. Grandpa, I don't need to go. How can you not go? You can delay anything, but you can't delay studying. What if you don't get into your ideal school in the college entrance examination, so you go back to school as soon as possible? The old man even started to drive her away, so Zhang Xiao could only listen to his instructions and prepare to go to school. After going out, he asked Fu Chenxiu, Uncle Wu, didn't you already ask the school for a week's leave for me? She only studied for 2 days during this leave. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 199. Chapter 199. Chapter 199. Gossip. When the stomach pain is gone, it's time to go to school. Don't you still want to take the US exam if you keep procrastinating like this, or are you saying you don't want to study forensics? Fu Chenxiu said in a deep voice. Zhang Xiao. She couldn't refute what the boss said. Pack your things away and I'll take you to school. Fu Chenxiu left the words behind and went downstairs to the garage. Zhang Xiao went to his room to pack his books without daring to delay, and then went to the door to wait for the boss. Zhang Xiao returned to school, first handed in the test papers, and then returned to the classroom with a pile of test papers. She was not allowed to take them because of the teacher's favor. When the bell was about to ring, Chu Hanyu hurried over, breathing heavily as he ran. Zhang Xiao waited for her to take a breath before chatting with her. Hanyu, why are you so late today? It's not An Xiaoxuan's fault, otherwise I would have been here long ago. Chu Hanyu felt resentful when talking about An Nangxuan. Zhang Xiaoxiu's mind automatically replayed the phone call with Chu Hanyu that day. 2 men and 1 woman, the words were still so unclear that it was really difficult not to think blindly. What's wrong with Uncle An? Zhang Xiaoxiao did not hide his gossip. Chu Hanyu's little face was full of atmosphere, and she gritted her teeth when talking about An Nangxuan. He is just crazy. He came to our house and brought Grandpa An with him. Grandpa An said that An Nangxuan came to break off the engagement without going through them. She agreed, so it doesn't count, and the An family will only recognize her as a granddaughter-in-law. So, your engagement still exists? Zhang Xiao asked. My grandpa angrily told Grandpa An that it was you who made the engagement, old man An, and it was your grandson who came to break off the engagement. You can do whatever you want. Don't you think too little of our Chu family? Let me tell you, this engagement has been cancelled. I, the girl from the Chu family, was not allowed to marry like this. So Grandpa Chu rejected Grandpa An's request. Yet when Chu Hanyu thought about his grandfather's domineering oath, he felt extremely excited. It would be nice to have someone to support him. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at Chu Hanyu with a gossipy face, but haven't you always liked Uncle An? Wouldn't it be good for you not to break off the engagement? Chu Hanyu frowned lightly and replied, I don't like him anymore. I had already reassured him when he came to break off the engagement at home. There are thousands of men in the world, why should I keep it? Hold him. Zhang Xiaoxiao. Why can't she be so unbelieving that she would give up so easily? If she gives up so easily after liking someone for more than 10 years, then it's not a lot of love. The phone call I made to you that day was received by Uncle An and Chen Baiking. It was about something. What happened between the 3 of you? Zhang Xiaoxiao still wanted to know what happened that day. That day, Chu Hanyu has been missing a lot lately and can't remember many things. It was the day I sent a lot of links. By the way, what did you send me that day? When I clicked on it, there was nothing left. Zhang Xiao wanted to know what happened that day. You didn't see it, Chu Hanyu looked at her doubtfully. Do I need to see what you sent, or you can tell me? Zhang Xiao was curious about what happened that day, so she sent him countless text messages. The previous chapter is chapter 198. I typed it wrong. Sorry. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 200. Chapter 200. Chapter 200. Can you really accept Uncle Fu Wu and Wen Yueru being together? Chu Hanyu's mind turned around and he didn't lose his mind this time. He answered with a smile, don't you know that the matter between your fifth uncle and Wen Yueru has been on the hot search? I know, but you sent me the message at night, and they went to the bridal shop during the day. Zhang Xiao frowned and stared at Chu Hanyu, obviously not believing her words. Chu Hanyu smiled dryly, really? Yes, Zhang Xiao nodded. Hanyu, are you hiding something from me? No. Chu Hanyu smiled unnaturally and rolled his eyes. I'm not talking about trying on wedding dresses. I'm talking about her going to the old house for dinner. I was eating at the old house, and it was also trending, Zhang Xiao asked. Well, it's on the hot search. Is it really impossible for you and Uncle Fu to be together when I'm young? Chu Hanyu looked at Zhang Xiao with worry in his eyes. In her opinion, Zhang Xiaoxi and Fu Chenxiu had already had a close relationship, and some things could be accepted. After all, Fu Chenxiu liked Zhang Xiaoxi. Zhang Xiao pursed his lips, frowned slightly, and did not answer Chu Hanyu for a long time. Seeing her silence, Chu Hanyu sighed lightly, knowing that Zhang Xiaoxi was already in a tangle. It was not that Zhang Xiao had no feelings for Fu Chenxiu, but that he just couldn't accept such a display of feelings now. She watched as a bystander. It was clear, but she couldn't influence Zhang Xi's decision, and she could only give some appropriate reminders. When I was young, would you really accept Uncle Fu Wu and Wen Yueru being together? Zhang Xiao's face was tense, his eyes were lowered, his curled eyelashes trembled slightly, and he asked himself in his heart, can he really accept it? But why did she feel uncomfortable with a huge boulder pressing on her heart when she saw the photos of Fu Chenxiu and Wen Yueru? When you are young, don't miss the people who love you. Once you miss some people, it will last a lifetime, Chu Hanyu said sadly. Zhang didn't speak when she was young, but Chu Hanyu's words kept swirling in her mind and melted into her heart. So, if Uncle Fu Wu is engaged to Wen Yueru, do you want me to accompany you to cause trouble? Chu Hanyu suggested enthusiastically. Zhang Xiao. Chu Han said that she couldn't keep up with the brain circuit. So, now you have completely put down Uncle and thrown yourself into Chen Baiking's arms. Zhang Xiao looked at her with raised eyebrows. Chu Hanyu's eyes twitched. She thought she had fooled the topic, but she didn't. She looked at Zhang Xiao desperately. I don't fall into anyone's arms. I love the whole forest. Zhang Xi. The midterm exam is coming soon. Where are you going to go on vacation? Chu Hanyu changed the topic again. Where do you want to go? Where do you think Uncle Wu will allow me to go? Zhang Xiao has not thought about such a distant thing as a holiday. Even if she has thought about it, she can't go anywhere without the consent of the boss. In this for a moment, she wished that the boss and Wen Yueru were together. If you act coquettishly with your fifth uncle, he will definitely let you go, Chu Hanyu encouraged. Zhang Shishi shook her head firmly. During this period of understanding, she knew that the boss would indulge her, and that was definitely under the condition of being obedient. And with her recent performance, she even thought, or don't do it. After he died, it would be nice to stay with the old man at home to help Baiyu Egguang fulfill his filial piety. I heard that the old man went to live in Nangziyuan. Is it true or false? Chu Hanyu asked curiously. Thank you for your tips and recommendation votes. I'm such a fan, so wow. End of this chapter.